Well, everybody, I'm super excited on the block. I know I say that a lot, but I really am. And you are going to be blessed. And this is going to be exciting for you too, because we have DiAnn Mills back with us. And I just love this woman so much. I love her heart for the Lord, and I love her writing and how she just wants to write for Jesus. And so I'm going to just turn it over to her right now. And DiAnn, I'd like for you to introduce yourself. I'm going to put your official bio on the post. So tell us something else about you that might not be in your bio that you want people to know about DiAnn Mills.
Well, let's see. I live in Houston, the home of horses,
Mm.
Harleys, and hurricanes.
Yes.
And I love Houston, but there are times that that love relationship is challenged. I would say that when I was a girl, I wanted to be an actress.
Oh.
I just thought, oh, that's what I want to do. And then I realized, oh, I am too shy to do that, but I could write.
Mm.
Oh, that's where it went. I could take all those characters and put them in different books and play all those parts.
Yeah, when you were saying that you thought about being an actress, I was going to say I could totally see you doing that. I just I feel like you have that like theatrical type presence and voice, and I really feel like you could pull it off.
Oh, well, thank you, but I don't think I could then. It took getting out into the writing world and the speaking world and being passionate about story and teaching other writers
Mm.
that my confidence grew. Thank you,
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes.
And so I came out of that shell a whole lot. But
Hmm.
that makes me feel good. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, I can see it. So you mentioned that you have all of these like characters you're thinking about, and you thought, oh, I could write. So is writing something that you've always wanted to do, or did
Uh,
that come about through a process?
Yes, my mother said once that when I was wee little, I used to get spanked. That's when spanking was okay
Oh, yeah.
for telling lies. But I told her, yeah, but now I get paid for it. Um, and actually, I remember in the second grade writing my first story on a Big Chief notebook pad,
Mm.
which probably wouldn't be correct these days, and with a number two pencil. And anyway, I remember that first story was a Western, and at the end of every chapter, the hero rode off into the West.
Well, that's the way it is in the movies, right?
Yes, that's the way it is in the
It's
movie.
just right off into the sunset, happily ever after. So, how did that pan out for you? Have you actually published any Westerns?
I did write historicals for a time
Oh, okay.
and really enjoyed them when I was writing back in the beginning for Barber Publishing. One month I would do a historical romance, and the next month I would do a contemporary. And I did write two Western types, historical types
Hmm.
for Zondervan. So I liked that historic, what it took to be a hero and heroine and the slower pace and time and things of that nature. But what I learned is that I've got to be constantly challenged. And writing contemporary is a constant challenge because technology changes almost daily, and we writers have to be prepared for it.
Mm.
There are many times I'll write something into a story and say to my husband, "Is this possible?" And he said, "It may not be now, but by the time your book comes out, it will be." So I'm the type
Mm.
of writer, I've got to be challenged, and which is why I stick more with the contemporary romantic suspense.
Right. So that's what I was going to ask you. So the genre you write now is romantic suspense. And I did not know that you had written historicals before and
Mhm.
contemporary romance. That's very interesting. So was the sole reason to inspire you to switch to romantic suspense based on um wanting that challenge of keeping up with technology, or were there other things involved in that decision?
No, I have to be challenged or I'm bored. And I was leaning toward, oh, that sounds too much like this story or something that someone else has written. How can I make this heroine a little different? Things of that nature. And I thought, no, I like the suspense. I
Mm,
like the contemporary things that can go on. And I really believe that we live in a dangerous and dark and unpredictable world. And maybe they felt that then too. I'm sure they did. But for me, facing my own fears and what's going on in the world today helps me, I believe, to write more authentically.
mm, yeah, I can see that. So what about bringing Christ into your stories and talking about hope without being preachy or, turning people off in that way?
Oh, that's right. And you know what? I have been turned off about faith as a Christian in reading some books that are just too preachy. So, my thoughts, my beliefs, the way I write and the way I teach is that there needs to be at least one character who goes after a goal, lives their life, and solves their problems from a Christian world point of view.
Okay.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that while they're running after a bad guy, they're reciting scripture. That's not realistic. But it does mean that prayer is important and the foundational beliefs that humans are valued and respected is important. And I just want to show that difference so that a believer can say, oh, that's what living a Christian life is all about. And for an unbeliever, um, that I'm planting a
Mhm.
seed that I hope will nurture and grow in them to find out what a relationship with Jesus is all about.
Right. Now, do you have any idea, like, what percentage of readers maybe read your book that may be unbelievers? Is there any way to gauge any of that?
Only way I can tell that is when I receive a review, and that's difficult for me because I don't read reviews. I don't
Mm,
want to get I don't want to get vacuumed up into that. But if somebody sends me an email or they post something on Facebook or Twitter that lets me know they read my book and they weren't a believer and that they liked it, I value that. I value that tremendously because for someone who's not a believer to say, I like the story, I think takes a lot of courage on their part too.
hmm Yeah, I think that's a little more difficult if you have a main character who's maybe a pastor or a Christian leader or something, because in their normal everyday life and vernacular, they probably are talking a lot about God and scripture. So I feel like because that's one of my characters is a minister, and it's really hard to find that balance,
Hmm.
not being preachy, but like he's a preacher. So he,
Yeah.
he he's preachy.
Yes, he lives that life, and we
Mm,
wanted to show. We wanted to show that, excuse the expression, the Boy Scout helping the little old lady across the street. That
mhm,
tells us uh, a fathom of things about that particular character.
mhm,
Um, Telling a boyfriend no. I believe that this part of our relationship needs to wait until marriage says a whole lot about her,
mhm.
and a whole lot about him if he respects it.
Right.
So those are the things that I think are really, really important, and that's the hardest part of writing, which is showing and not telling.
Yes. Yes, and I love learning about that too, by the way. I just love that whole going into deep point of view and really trying to get in that character's skin and get in their head and
Hmm.
try to write what they're thinking and feeling, and that's fun to do that.
Oh, yes. I love that. I love every part of the writing process. And like we mentioned a few minutes ago, it's that challenge. How can I make this book a little bit better than the previous book?
Mhm.
And with that comes whole host of ways to define it. And I love deep point of view
Mhm.
because it's like you and I talking.
Yes. Yeah. So, do you enjoy more writing the story out, the first draft, or editing, like going back and fixing and rewording things?
Both. And while many professional people will say it takes the left side of the brain for this and the right side of the brain for that,
Mhm.
I disagree, at least for me. It all takes creativity. Creativity to get it all out on paper that first time, that draft, and creativity to look at it and say, okay, what is a better word? What is a better way to show this action? How
Mhm.
can I weave a little tighter plot? To me,
Right.
that all takes creativity. And I'm sure, and I know there's lots of people who disagree with that, but that's the way my brain works.
Mhm. That's good. I love to see a story get better and better and better. Just, oh,
Oh,
you just find that perfect little turn of phrase or, you know, something to show that it's kind of fun and exciting to see that happening.
oh yes. Oh yes.
So you have a new book coming out soon, September, I think you told me the 2nd? Is
Yes, the
okay,
Monday after Labor Day,
September 2nd, and what is the title of the book?
lethal standoff.
Lethal Standoff.
Mhm.
And then number what? How many books have you published?
It makes number 94.
Oh my gosh, Diane. It's so
I, you
smart.
know, Dina, I don't know how that happened. I can't tell you um, the names of all the heroes and heroines. And my sweet husband, he heard me say that and he went back through every one and made a spreadsheet for me
Oh,
with the name of the book, the hero, the heroine, if it was contemporary or historical, and when it was published.
oh my goodness.
Yeah. But no, I don't know how that happened. And it is definitely a God thing because uh this this is really a it's a miracle for me
Mm,
to, and I'm sure you feel this way too, when you're able to do something that you're passionate about and it never gets old and
mhm.
you're excited to be doing it. That's a blessing when you think of the people who have jobs that they despise.
Yes. Yeah. Do you remember the date that your first novel was published?
Um, it was 1998, and I believe it was February.
Okay.
February. I'm
Mhm.
fairly certain. I know it was 98,
Mhm.
and September is jumping into my mind, but I'm fairly certain it was February.
Yeah. That had to be so exciting. Looking forward to that day.
Oh, you know what? It will happen, and I'm telling you, that thrill and that excitement of seeing your name on a cover never gets old.
That's what I hear. That's what I hear.
Never.
So let's talk a little bit about this book, Lethal
Okay.
Standoff. Let's start with the setting. Tell us a little bit about the setting and maybe what inspired that setting.
Well, I always try to have my books set around Houston, and when you have 4 million people, there's a lot of stories. So my hero and my heroine live in the Houston area. She is a private professional negotiator.
Okay.
I have been so enamored with negotiators for a long time. And the idea of being able to have that psychology, that ability, that tone of voice to talk to those who are um, panicked, who are out of control, to me, that is a real gift.
Mm,
And there were
yeah.
two things that got me excited about that. One was some years ago, I interviewed an FBI agent who was a negotiator, and that just sort of set the spark. And then I am a big fan of Masterclass, the everything that you can think of that you can learn on Mastercraft. And that actually is my way of learning about writing, about uh, various careers, all kinds of things. Anyway, I just love Masterclass. And I don't get a penny for saying that.
Hmm.
And anyway, when we were looking at some of the new classes, one of them was taught by Chris Voss, who had been instrumental in putting together uh, negotiator classes within the FBI. And he did that for several years and then went on to start his own company that he trains people in all kinds of professions about negotiating skills. So, oh, I was excited about that. There were 15 videos and a little workbook. And I was just like sitting on the edge of the sofa watching those and taking notes. And so I was able to form a character who had a lot of those qualities from a gentleman who had done it, taught it, and that's his expertise.
Mm,
So I wanted to show in this book a woman who could step into harm's way and to talk through dangerous situations and help those people who were imprisoned, imprisoned by kidnappers or held hostage, um, to find a way to get them free.
mm,
Uh, the idea of discovering why people are motivated to do these kinds of things, um, just just was really
mm.
exciting for me. A challenge.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. It sounds interesting. So, can you tell us a little more about the storyline itself and maybe the premise there?
Okay. It is set west of Houston and outside of the city of Victoria. So it has a southwestern border type of flair and setting to it. And it is about two brothers who take hostage 15 undocumented immigrants.
Mm,
um, they have them kept in this old house on a piece of one of the brothers' property, and they have demands, and their demands coincide with their father recently being murdered, and they feel by an undocumented immigrant. And so they have demands about getting things done and getting arrests made. And until their demands are met, they are going to keep these people hostage.
mm,
And so it's hot, no matter how you look at it. They're angry, one brother more angry than another. So the negotiator is able to talk down one of the brothers and he walks away from what is going on, but his other brother shoots him. And so
mm,
he's in pretty bad condition. And so what happens is while my negotiator is trying to talk through some sense to this brother, she is bringing the brothers, she's bringing the man's wife to the scene to see if he can talk, if she can talk to him. But I bring in the hero. The hero is a journalistic kind of guy. I guess you would call that a journalistic kind of guy. He writes for a publication, and he is known for his courage, his bravery, and always finding out the truth,
Mm,
whether the truth is what the rest of the media and public want to believe or not.
mm,
And his publication was recently purchased by a company that have their own set of agenda, which is not his set of agenda. So on the way to cover this story, he's fired,
mm,
but he's going to find out the truth. What's going on with these brothers? Why these 15 people? What's going on?
mm,
And so that lays the foundation for the rest of my story of uncovering family secrets,
mhm,
betrayal, lies, dysfunction, and the story takes a turn that you don't really see in the beginning. I had
mm.
a whole lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I imagine the research for something like that is pretty intense.
yes. But you know what? I don't want anyone emailing me or leaving a social media post that says it wouldn't happen that way or you didn't do your research or that kind of thing. So it's really important to me to
Mm,
find out from those people who share in that career or in that particular vicinity how crimes are solved, how things are done. I want to know that and I want to share that with my readers.
mhm. But it's got to be hard to, we're talking about deep point of view. It's got to be hard to get in the mind of the brothers who would actually kidnap these people, hold them hostage, like, because I can't imagine interviewing someone who has held people hostage. Like that seems like that would be hard to do. But yeah. Are they
And
POV characters? Are the brothers?
uh, one of them is,
Okay. That's got to be
one of
intense.
them is, and it's just a really, it is a sad situation. One of the hostages is a young boy who is very ill.
Mm,
And so that is, that just increases the stakes.
yes. Yes.
And
Wow. It sounds like a great story. I really see that attracting a lot of people and holding attention. Um, Good job, DiAnn.
oh, well, thank you. I'll make sure you get a copy. I'm going to make um, uh, a note right now.
Oh, you're so sweet.
I'll make sure you get a
Oh,
copy of that. I, like you, I love what I do. I love the creating the characters. I love giving them a backstory that plays right into chapter one, line one. Um, One thing about my hero, and I don't want to take up, too much of your time, but I feel that is important, is my hero's backstory was that he was raised um, Orthodox Jewish Orthodox, the very strict Orthodox, and uh, he becomes interested in Jesus. And so when he converts to Messianic Jew, not not a Baptist, a Lutheran, or a Methodist, or a Catholic, but Messianic Jew, his family, not only is he shunned in every sense of the word, but they have a burial for him, a ceremony
hmm.
that he is no longer alive.
Wow.
If he had chosen one of the denominations that I just mentioned, it would have looked like he had converted to another religion. But with the messianic aspect, to them, it's as though he betrayed the whole Jewish nation back to Abraham.
Wow.
And that took a tremendous amount of research and interviews that
Mm-hmm.
I was not aware of. So
Mm,
he's got to build his personal life back up again, have other church members be his new family, and many of them have gone through the same thing. So
mm. Wow.
that was something different for me.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother level to your book too, another layer.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. So, as writers, when we're writing stories, a lot of times God has lessons to teach us as we're writing. So, I'm curious, maybe something God taught you while writing this particular book and what you're hoping that readers will take away from it.
I think the depth of family dysfunction for one,
Mm,
the lies and betrayal that come from family dysfunction that many of us who have not had that particular tragedy, and granted there's dysfunction everywhere because we're all sinful people, but I'm talking about the serious kinds that foster abuse and violence. And that gave me a whole new respect for those people who have gone through that type of an upbringing,
mm,
and how they survive, and are they ever able to completely get away from it. That in itself, I learned a lot. And also, what I just explained to you about the various types of Jewish culture. That was a whole new learning experience. So I felt like uh, that I grew in the way of learning more about the
mhm,
Jewish culture.
mhm. Well, every time I read a book and I'm challenged in my faith or learn something more about God or grow spiritually, that is one of my favorite books.
Mhm.
I love to be entertained, and there's nothing wrong with just pure entertainment. But my personality is such that I like to go deeper than just entertainment. I really want to be challenged to grow in my faith when I read a novel.
Oh, and I did. And I did, my husband and I did attend a Messianic Jewish worship service on a Saturday morning. Um, and that was an
Mm,
experience, beautiful experience.
mm, that's awesome. So we're going to have to wrap up here. It's amazing how fast time flies when you're
Mm.
having so much fun. There's so many other questions I wanted to ask you. But as we begin to wrap up, I know you are very active on social media,
Mhm.
right? And you enjoy interacting with readers there. And I'm going to make sure all of the links for your social media pages are in the post so that people can connect with you. And I guess you have a newsletter too, I'm assuming.
Yes, I have a blog, a weekly blog that is basically for readers, which does encompass some writers too, but it's basically for readers.
Hmm. And if people subscribe to your newsletter, do you have a freebie for them?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And it's right now, I believe it's the first chapter. I'd have to check. It's either it needs to be the first chapter to Lethal Standoff, and I'm pretty sure it is. I've got to check with my executive director, my husband.
Yes. He's the expert on those things, right?
Yes, yes.
That's awesome. So what are you working on now? I know this book is coming out, so it's done, it's fully
Mhm.
finished, but what's next?
Let's see. I've written a little short story just for readers for Christmas.
Hmm.
And it's currently titled Twinkling Secrets. So it's a little romance and a little itty bitty of mystery suspense with it. And that's what I will give, the whoever wants it for Christmas. I am finishing up the edits for a second negotiator book,
Hmm.
and it's pretty exciting. It took me to West Texas to the Guadalupe Mountains to an off-the-grid area called Dog Canyon. And trust me, it's not the kind of place that you ever want to get sick or have car trouble. Very, very remote, very beautiful.
Mm,
It's not too far from Carlsbad Canyon in New Mexico. In fact, the setting for my story in Texas, you had to go into New Mexico to get there. So,
wow.
uh,
Wow.
so that is negotiating the release of a kidnapped little girl.
Mm, sounds good.
Hope so.
You just keep us on the edge of our seats.
Oh, honey, I try.
That's great. Well, the last thing that I want to say is what a privilege, not only to have you here today and interview you again on my blog. It's always such fun, but also the privilege I had to see you again in person at the Blue Ridge Conference at the end of May. And that was a joy to see you there. And congratulations again on the award that you won there. Was it the Yvonne Lehman
Yes,
Award? And that's for mentoring?
mentoring and helping other writers. I was very, very shocked and overwhelmed and just this close to breaking down into sobs. And I'm
Yeah.
not pretty when I do that.
Yeah. It's an ugly cry, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I was super excited when they called your
No.
name and to be there in person to see you receive that well-deserved
Oh,
award because I know personally how much you enjoy pouring into other writers and
oh,
helping those not quite as far along as you are to try to reach their goals and achieve their dreams the way that you have. So thank you for that.
oh, it was an honor. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here again on the blog. A pleasure and a joy. And I hope to have you back again another time, maybe next year when you have another book that we want to
It
get out
sounds
there.
wonderful.
Okay. Thanks, DiAnn.
Thanks.